Incredible stories showcasing Acadiana athletes off the field. This is Beyond the Jersey, a KLFY Plus exclusive.
Welcome to Beyond the Jersey, here exclusively on KLFY Plus. I'm Jonathan Bulot. Tonight we spotlight two Acadiana area products. Later in the program, you'll hear from UFC flyweight Crispy Carly Giudice on her introduction to the world of MMA. But for now, we'll begin the night on the hardwood, celebrating one of the most decorated high school basketball coaches of all time. Of course, we're talking about St. Thomas More boys basketball coach Danny Broussard. After leading the Cougars to 6 basketball state championships and over 1,000 wins, Danny Broussard was elected as a member of the 2025 Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. The 2025 inductees include LSU and NFL standout Andrew Whitworth, Pro Basketball All-Stars Danny Granger and Vicki Johnson, boxer Bobby Swallow, and All-American gymnast April Burkholter. Along with the players, the 2025 class includes 4 coaching legends. Joining Danny Broussard is Catholic High football coach Dale Weiner, Delgado baseball coach Joe Schumerman, and former LSU Tigers head coach Nick Saban. Additionally, sports journalists Ed Daniels and Glenn Gilbo would be inducted into the 2025 Distinguished Service Award in sports journalism. LSU Associate Commissioner of the Southeastern Conference Herb Vincent was also enshrined as the winner of the 2025 Dave Dixon Louisiana Sports Leadership Award. Here's more on the journey of Danny Broussard.
I was in the swimming pool and I almost drowned. Kevin Foote, who's, a lifelong friend of mine, obviously, Kevin. Kevin in his own right is a Hall of Famer. Kevin was on the phone, and when he told me, I was like, wow, really,
That's how St. Thomas More boys basketball coach Danny Broussard reacted to being inducted into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. Although it was a surprise to Coach Broussard, it certainly wasn't for the people of Acadiana. Danny Broussard has built the St. Thomas More basketball program into a juggernaut over the past 40 years. Under his guidance, the Cougars have made 20 appearances in the LHSAA Final Four and have captured 6 basketball state championships.
I owe everything to the community. I owe everything, the St. Thomas More administration. I've been through 8 principals, and I'm going to tell you, every one of them kind of, I think, saw the, vision we had and kind of supported what we had because they wanted to continue having success in sports, and so I had very successful administration behind me.
Following a routine checkup with his doctor in December of 2023, Danny Broussard had to undergo triple bypass surgery. With the support of his family, Broussard made a full recovery from the operation. Coach Broussard understands that his basketball journey is closer to the end than the beginning, but his love for the game and his players keeps him coming back for more.
Sure, I've thought about it a lot more. I start thinking to myself, man, I'm getting up there in age, and it's going to come to the end. When, I don't know. God has a plan for that, and hopefully I'll know when it's my time to go out. But for right now, my passion's still there. I'm loving it. We've been pretty successful the last 2 years, state runner-ups, and so I think the future for 3 or 4 or 5 more years certainly is there, and we'll see. But I am taking it year to year and see what happens, and hopefully my health can hold up, and I keep winning. Once I start losing, I'm getting out.
I asked Coach Broussard how he hopes to be remembered by the Acadiana community. His response was quite simple. He's a good man with a big heart.
I think just a guy that cared about his players, cared about his family. And the biggest compliment I almost ever got was 2 things. He said he's one of the only coaches that can keep 15 players happy, and his players play hard for him. How do you get? I get asked that question a lot. Why do your players play so hard for you? And I think because they know I care for them, and they want to give that back to me. And that's the only explanation I can give you, that I got a big heart. God gave me a big heart, and I care about people, and I care about my players, and they're all like sons to me. And so I think that's the biggest thing that they take away from me, is that, Danny Broussard cared about his kids.
Reporting, Jonathan Bulot, KLFY, News 10 Sports. Coming up on Beyond the Jersey, we'll head to Natchitoches for Danny Broussard's Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Welcome back to Beyond the Jersey. In June of 2025, 12 people took their rightful place in the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. One of those 12, St. Thomas More boys basketball coach Danny Broussard. Danny Broussard has won 6 basketball state championships with the Cougars and has finished as a state runner-up 5 times. He's the 5th prep basketball coach in the state to surpass 1,000 wins. Coach Broussard has achieved all his coaching achievements at STM, and he wishes he could put the names of his players and staff on the award that he's received.
It's been awesome. You can tell from that crowd out there. That's half of those guys are my basketball players that played for me, that gave their heart and soul and dedicated 4 years of their lives. And it says Danny Broussard on this thing, but I wish I could put those 200 names up there, because those are the guys. That's the reason why I'm here. And my 12 assistant. Give them a big hand. And my 12 assistant coaches, who have been with me through thick and thin, have been so loyal to me over the years, and I really couldn't have done it without them. And Tommy Lasorda once said that he bled Dodger blue, and I feel like I bleed STM Navy and Maroon.
Coming up on Beyond the Jersey, we'll introduce you to crispy Carly Giudice. Welcome back. In July of 2025 at UFC 318 in New Orleans, Dustin Poirier wasn't the only Louisiana native who stepped inside the octagon in front of their home crowd. New Iberia's own crispy Carly Giudice took on Nicole Cagliari at the UFC Fight Pass prelims ahead of the Diamond's last dance. Here's more on Giudice's path to the octagon.
Carly Giudice joining us here in the KLFY Plus podcast studio. First of all, we want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and we're going to talk about a little bit of everything. Let's just go back and start with where this MMA UFC journey began, because originally you were a softball player at McNeese. So what happened with that, and when did you realize that maybe it wasn't for you to play collegiate softball?
So yeah, I mean, I played softball my whole entire life. As soon as I could walk, my parents had me playing softball. So I played high school. I got a scholarship to go to McNeese. So I played there for about a year and a half. And then I kind of just really got burnt out of a softball. I remember going to my dad, and he spent so much money putting me through travel ball and getting recruited and all kind of stuff. It's a lot of money. And I just remember being so scared to tell them that I was just sick of it. Like, I didn't want to play anymore. I was just burnt out. And I was also, 18, 19, 20 years old. I didn't have the discipline and different things that I have now, which, we might end up talking about later. But so yeah, I was just ready to give up and just quit. I wasn't chasing that dream anymore. So I moved back home. I was in Lake Charles, obviously. I moved back home to Lafayette. I'm originally from New Iberia, but I moved to Lafayette, and I was just working. I was working at Outback. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I was just like, well, this is kind of awkward. I played sports my whole life. Now I'm just working at Outback, eating blooming onions and eating bread and butter. So I was just confused and lost for like a 6-month period. And then that's when I got into MMA. I started at Head Kicks MMA on Johnson Street. And then I've been there ever since, and it just started rolling, and here I am now. So it's an amazing, amazing journey to look back on.
So whenever you got into MMA training, it was just originally just to get fit and get in shape. When did you realize that it was something that you really wanted to do competitively?
It didn't take too long. When I first started, I remember my brother was at Head Kicks, and he was like, you should come. There's a 2-week trial. You get a free pair of gloves. And we were working in our backyard. I had no shoes on. We were kicking in the dirt, and I was kicking a homemade bag that he made out of duct tape. And I remember kicking, and he was like, ooh, no, not like that. Like, that's terrible. And just to look from where that was, where I was there to where I am now, I remember it took me about a year of training to have my first amateur fight. So I started in 2020. My first amateur fight was in February of 2021. So I just remember my coach, one day, I started in kickboxing first. My coach was like, you're getting good at this. You should probably join jiu-jitsu if you want to do full MMA. And then about 6 months in, I started jiu-jitsu. A year later, I had my first amateur fight, and it just kept rolling from there.
So let's just talk a little bit about your upbringing, because part of that kind of led to your UFC monitor of crispy Carly Giudice. So you grew up in a bakery, supposedly. Can you just kind of talk to us about that and how that influenced you to add that to your, UFC package?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a cake shop, right? My granny owned a cake shop. She made wedding cakes, sweets. She sold cake supplies and different things like that. And we lived, right behind her for half of my life. So we were always in the cake shop helping her stock the shelves and eating sweets any time of the day. So the whole idea of crispy, obviously I want my fighting style to be crisp and smooth and fast. So that's the main part of it. But the pun behind it is Krispy Kreme donuts. I love sweets. I'll eat sweets any part of the day. Any time of the day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, I'll finish every single night, even when I'm cutting weight, with a little piece of chocolate, because I just got to have my sugar. So that's where the crispy kind of came from.
So what's the name of the bakery?
My grandma's, or
Yes, yes.
it was just Virginia's Cake Supply. She retired about 15 years ago. They closed it down, but that's where we grew up around.
Okay, so here's the question for you. What was one of your favorite sweets that she made? You also mentioned you love Krispy Kreme. What's your go-to donut for after you win your fights?
So one of the favorite sweets my grandma would make, it's called Dobaj cake. It's a 7-layer cake with just icing. It's pretty much just icing. Like there's like tiny thin layers of cake, but the rest of it is icing. So that's my favorite thing that she made. And then my favorite donut is just a glazed donut from Krispy Kreme specifically.
So let's just go ahead and get back to the cage. So you get into the Dana White Contender Series and you earn a UFC contract through that entire process. What was that like for you, just kind of stepping into the UFC world for the first time?
It was really crazy. It happened really quick. I got that fight on 10 days notice. I wasn't expecting it at all. I remember they called me and I was freaking out that whole day, just having to get ready for that opportunity really fast, because usually you have 8 weeks to prepare for something like that physically, but also mentally. So being thrown into that on a 10 days notice was crazy, but obviously. But one of the biggest blessings in my life, you know, it's the catalyst to everything that's just happened up to this point. And it was huge, but I had to get ready for that moment. And, you know, I went out there and fought and performed to the best of my ability, and, you know, it paid off.
So you end up losing your UFC debut by split decision, but you come back like a champion in March. You win by first round knockout with one of the nastiest head kicks I've seen. You win performance of the night. Kind of just, what was that like to wrap your head around how well you were able to bounce back from that first loss and really put yourself on a big platform like that?
You know, coming off of 2 losses, the Contender Series and my debut on one of the biggest stages, you know, I just try to keep my mind, you know, not around winning or losing. I just want to be a totally different fighter every time I step in there, right? So my debut, I didn't look the same fighter as I was in the Contender Series. So I wanted to make sure I lost my debut. And when I came back, I wanted to be a totally different fighter. No, you couldn't even recognize me. My technique was better. So every time I'm in practice, every single practice I go to, I'm focusing on how can I make these tiny little movements better so I'm overall a better fighter. So I feel like that played a huge role in, you know, my fight and my knockout. I had so much more confidence in myself, and I knew I was going to come in there and not be the same fighter I was when I lost those 2.
And then after the fight, you were very vocal about wanting to be on this rumored at the time UFC 318 card, Dustin Poirier's retirement fight. And now that's all coming to fruition. What was it like to kind of get notice that this was actually going to take place and you were going to get to fight at a UFC pay-per-view event in your backyard of New Orleans?
I mean, obviously, people are going to say it's a dream come true, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity, but I mean that to the fullest extent. This is a dream come true. You know, not many people get this opportunity, and I'm not going to take that for granted, and I'm going to go out there and perform for all of Louisiana, and I always do. I always try to give everything I have, and when I know that, you know, I'm in my backyard and all the people are rooting for me, you know, that really fires me. So I think it's going to be an amazing night, and Dustin Poirier is going to blow the roof off the place as well, so it's going to be awesome.
Kind of just talk about your relationship with Dustin and maybe some of the pointers that he's helped give you along the way in your journey yourself.
Me and Dustin, we don't have too much of a relationship. I've talked to him a few times, and he's obviously, you know, told me that I'm doing a great job. And he's just, I've seen him a few times, and we've talked a little bit. But, you know, he's busy. He got his own thing going on. He has a family, and he's training all the time. So we don't train too much alongside each other, but I will always look up to him, and, you know, he's a big inspiration to me. So
your next fight, Nicole Cagliari, she's won about 63% of her fights via knockout. So it's going to be a tough fight for you. I know that you're training so hard for it. What are you really looking to accomplish with this fight in this camp?
We definitely know that she is going to come. She actually fought the girl that I fought on Contender Series, and she tried to take her down, I think, 14 times. So I know she's not going to want to strike with me. I feel like she's going to try to take me down. So we're definitely working on that and making sure that I'm ready for if it goes on the ground. Also make sure I have the cardio to fight off all the takedowns, because that's a whole different, you know, part of the game in itself, is just having the cardio to do that. But I'm definitely going in there trying to knock her out. I'm trying to go in there and hurt her. I feel like my 2 fights that I lost that sense of I'm trying to hurt the person in front of me. My last fight when I knocked the girl out, I knew I was going to hurt her. So I'm going into this next fight knowing I'm going to hurt this girl. And I feel like that really, you know, gives me so much more confidence going in.
So fighting at home, it can mean one of two things. There's a lot of love, but there's also a lot of pressure on your shoulders. So how are you managing that heading into a really big event in July?
I'm not really focusing on it too much. I'm not really letting the pressure get to me because I know how many fighters go in there and handle the pressure. And I know I'm a person just like them. I know I can handle anything that comes my way. And I know I'm meant for this moment. I know I prepare for it. And as long as I'm putting in the work, I'm confident that I can handle anything that is thrown my way.
So when the dust settles and Saturday ends and it comes to Sunday, what do you want the high brass of UFC and all the fans around the world to know about Crispy Carly Giudice when this fight is over?
I just want to break the image that female fighters are not technical and not good and just, not a lot of people like to watch females. So I want to, every time I go in there and after this fight, I want people to be like, dang, Carly can strike, Carly can fight, and she's a dog. So that's what I want to show the world every time I step in there.
And your story, it's so inspiring, especially to kids and young girls here in Acadiana. What's your message to them that are maybe looking to go down that same avenue of getting to the UFC and they don't know where to begin?
I just, all the kids and people around me, I want them to know that it's hard. It's not easy, but you can do anything you want, even if it's being a doctor, being a fighter, being whatever you want. It takes a lot of work. Nothing worth it is just going to be given to you. If I was just given all these opportunities without all the work, it wouldn't mean the same. Getting where I am and knowing what I did to get there, it really makes it all worth it. And I want to share, and spread the same vibe that all these kids and all these girls can do the exact same thing, but you have to be willing to work for it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Crispy Carly Giudice. Carly, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up on Beyond the Jersey, we'll have more from Carly's big fight at UFC 318. Welcome back. Crispy Carly Giudice has been fighting professionally since 2022, but her biggest test to date was in July at UFC 318. The southpaw striker from New Iberia entered coming off a dominant first-round TKO victory against Younessi Dubin at UFC Fight Night in March of 2025. There, she took home a Performance of the Night bonus, and this time around, Giudice would look to take on Nicole Cagliari in her backyard of New Orleans. Her opponent, Cagliari, entered with a pro record of 8-3 in search of her first win under the UFC banner. Giudice and Nicole Cagliari would open the night on the UFC Fight Pass prelims with a 3-round flyweight bout. Giudice was a betting favorite entering the fight, but wouldn't let the nerves shake her. Giudice picked up a 3rd-round TKO win on a knee to the liver. Smoothie King Center erupted as the first fight of the night saw a win from one of Louisiana's own. Here's more from Crispy Carly Giudice on the podium after the win.
Carly right here, congrats. Dream performance, I imagine, opening the card with a finish like that, home state and everything. How did it all feel out there?
I can't describe how it feels. I'm in my home state of Louisiana. When I walked out, I can just feel the energy. I could feel the support and feel the love. And that really drove me. It's easy for a high-pressure situation like this to fight under Dustin Poirier, to start off the card. It's easy for it to get to you, but I didn't let it. I let it drive me, and I really, it led to the finish, all the support and all the love, and yeah, it feels great.
And did the fight go kind of as you expected? Were you expecting to be able to get her out of there at that point, or what was the reality as compared to the game plan?
I knew that I had finishing shots, but I was making sure I wasn't rushing the knees, because that's how you get taken down. If you search for something, especially with wrestlers throwing knees, you want to keep your distance. So it's a risky move, but we set it up and we timed it perfectly all camp, and I knew I could find it if I was patient. And I was patient, and we found it in the 3rd round.
And where do you feel you just are in your career development right now? Like, so impressive tonight. Still only 7 pro fights under your belt in MMA. So, like, are you evolving the way you want to? Do you still feel like you have a very long way to go?
I think my career is going just how it's supposed to be, just how it was destined to be. I came off of 2 losses after having all wins and mostly knockouts, so I felt unstoppable as an amateur and as an early pro. Then I got stopped, and I realized that the holes that I had to fix, and I'm still working on fixing them, but I think it's coming along nicely. So I'm going to continue to fix all the holes that I have, find holes, fix them, and hopefully be in the rankings one day, but I'm not rushing it. I'm taking my time. I know I have a long career, so I'm going to do whatever it takes to get to where I want to be.
Congrats on the win. She came out pretty aggressive in that first round. She did counterpunch pretty well, caught you a couple times when you stayed in the pocket, and then your corner said after the first round, like, stay out of the pocket. Was that a conscious decision you made and kind of capitalize on that advice after the first round?
Yes, it's kind of funny. My coaches, they tell me to stay out of the pocket every single day. So I don't know why I just went inside the pocket. I'm a dog. I'm from Lafayette. We like to fight, but I got to trust my coaches, sometimes. And I definitely made that adjustment. And I was like, oh, well, this works. My coaches know what they're talking about. So I'm glad I caught on to and listened to my coaches and executed that.
Carly, did you really feel the love from the 337 in the building tonight? Because I know you talked about how much you wanted to be on this card, and now getting through the fight with a W, making it 2 in a row. How does that feel for you?
It feels amazing. I felt the love all camp. I felt the love all week. Social media, walking around town, people are telling me that they're excited for me, all kind of different things. And when I walked out, I felt so good. I felt so ready. I felt like, the whole state of Louisiana, and even the people that aren't from Louisiana in the crowd, they were there for me, I heard them booing my opponent, which, none of us deserve to get booed, and it didn't feel good, but it felt good whenever they were screaming USA, when they were screaming my name. It felt awesome. And I know this is like once-in-a-lifetime opportunity sometimes to fight in your home state, so I'm cherishing every moment. I cherished every moment of it, and I'm glad I executed the game plan in the way that we did.
Finally, what flavored donut are you going to get for your victory?
Glazed, probably. I like glazed donut. Keep it simple. It's good. Make sure it's warm, though.
If you thought Carly's night at UFC 318 couldn't get any better, take a listen to this from UFC CEO Dana White.
What's up, gang? How are you? The attendance tonight was 18,138, sold out. $8.09 million, the highest grossing gate ever at the arena. The fight of the night was Vettori and Allen. Performance of the night, Islam, Gautier, and is that Carly? Yeah. Okay. They all won $50,000. Congrats to them.
Not only did Judice walk out of the Smoothie King Center that night on a 2-fight win streak, she also picked up her second straight performance of the night bonus worth $50,000. Looking forward to seeing what Judice will do in the future in the UFC. But that'll do it for us tonight on Beyond the Jersey. We'll see you next time right here exclusively on KLFY+.